Hello all YouTubers, I am the Weather Dude. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm sorry it's been a really long time. I know it's been over a couple weeks, but I've just been very busy and even under the weather for a while, so I'm glad to be back. And of course, now that it's winter break for a lot of people, I'll be posting a lot more often now, getting back into it. And luckily for me, there was a big storm to talk about today in the southeast, so that's what we are going to cover today. So stay tuned for that. As always, please consider watching the whole video. And yes, the watch hours have been getting a little bit lower since I've been posting in a while, but let's hope to get those, back up. All right, so we're going to start with the GFS model here, and to show you what is going on with the storm right now. So you can see, judging by the pressure isobars, it's when they're like bumping upwards like that, that means there's some kind of low, but it's a very broad low, and it's when you see kinks upward in the pressure iso lines, it's a sign that it's developing but not being quite developed yet. So in Northern Gulf, we do have some heavier showers that are going to be moving through. I mean, this was 2 o'clock, so as we head towards 8 o'clock, you can see a lot of the rain moves in, and there's just going to be a whole shield of rain, actually, going from Mississippi and the Florida Panhandle all the way through the Carolinas. So it's a very wide rain shield. And someone, when this is all said and done, is going to get over 6 inches of rain, or at least close to, but it's not quite sure exactly how. A lot of the models have been putting central and southern South Carolina in that bullseye of 4 to 8 inches of rain. And you can see Monday afternoon, it's still going. It's not until Tuesday morning that we start to see, and even some background, some wrap-up rain coming through the Carolinas Tuesday morning. So as we look at the total rain accumulation, according to the GFS model, okay, it's a lot. Okay, they're calling for 9 inches of rain for coastal South Carolina. That's a little bit bullish, but we do have some rain in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. But anywhere in this red shade, that is where you could see 2 to 3 inches of rain. So that's widespread through North Carolina, through South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida, and even eastern Mississippi. I mean, it's just widespread 2 to 3 inches. So that's basically a guarantee for a lot of people to get. All right, let's look at the high-resolution European model now. And as you can see, let's see, make sure it's the right run. Yes, it is. And let's go to 8 o'clock, and you can see some heavier bands of rain will be making their way on shore as we head through the next few hours, and it'll continue. And again, once that low gets off the coast, its energy will be transferred northward. And again, look at this. Monday morning and the Monday afternoon, it's that spot. It's like central, it's like a stripe down the middle of South Carolina. It's like around Columbia, down through Charleston, right in that bullseye. That's probably going to pick up the most rainfall out of this. So if you're in like Columbia, South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, anywhere basically down the middle of South Carolina, where north central, south central, or even like direct central South Carolina, you will be in the direct target for this. And the European model has it wrap it up a couple hours later than the GFS does, but pretty much wrapping up the same timing around Tuesday morning. So total precipitation here, again, not quite as bullish as the GFS, but here's a nice little band of 5 or 6 inches here. There's another band of 5 or 6 inches there. And they have a lot more rain for central Florida, as well as the Florida Panhandle. But again, still, and you also have a lot more rain for eastern Mississippi, and through North Carolina. You can see 2 to 3 inches in general to much of the southeast, which is basically almost a guarantee. Okay, the GEM model is having some problems on the pivotal weather, so we're going to go to Tropical Tidbits to look at the GEM model here. And as you can see, look at this. I mean, obviously, the northeastern Gulf of Mexico will pick up the most rain, so no spot on land in the United States will pick up the most rain, but that doesn't mean we can't see a lot. And look at the GEM model. My goodness, look at this. This huge red shade. I mean, that's just like astronomical. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the GEM model put South Carolina close to double digits. And look at this. This is Monday night at 8 o'clock. Look at southern South Carolina. Okay, all this rain. And this is basically not quite a hurricane. Almost like what you would call a hybrid storm, maybe. It's basically a hurricane, but it's just too cold. Not exactly, or it's not a nor'easter either, but it's a storm that's a powerhouse, like a hurricane, no less. It just doesn't have the warm waters and that hurricane would normally support and low wind shear and all that. The GEM model also has it wrapping up a few hours later. So look at the total rainfall accumulation. And there was that little bullseye right there, South Central South Carolina. It's that one bullseye that could see close to 10 inches of rainfall, according to the GEM model. So, but all three models, the GFS, the European, and the GEM, have very heavy rainfall at Central and South Central South Carolina. Okay, where exactly that sets up, not quite sure yet. Okay, now, let's actually look at the NAM model real quick. First at 12 km, because, I mean, it only goes out a certain amount of time. So, here's the NAM 12 km, and watch. The storm will be strengthening, okay, and we could have some sustained winds near tropical storm force by the time it comes on shore. And you can see it's still over water by tomorrow afternoon, so it's tomorrow at 2 o'clock p.m., it's still, the storm center is still over water. It doesn't actually come on shore until 6 to 8 p.m. Sunday. So that's when it finally comes on shore. You can see just briefly weakened, but then once that low translates its energy over to the Atlantic side, the pressure will all of a sudden drop. Not to bombogenesis, or if you don't know what bombogenesis is, when a low pressure system, when that red number right there drops 24 millibars in 24 hours. That won't happen. But as soon as that low gets on shore, the model guidance indicates this. Once it comes on shore, it starts turning to the Atlantic, and once it hits that Atlantic water, the pressure will suddenly drop. Now we're down to 1005, 1006, as opposed to 1011. So the pressure will drop. Okay, so the storm will strengthen, and then eventually you see heavy bands. Okay, I don't know why I'm using my finger to point at the screen. I mean, you can see heavy bands still going. I mean, this is 11 p.m. Monday, so, and then eventually we get the wraparound. Everything starts to draw back. By the time you wake up Tuesday, you'll have a few sporadic wrap-up showers, but everything should be good, especially the later on in the day you go on Tuesday. So NAM model luckily keeps the heaviest rain offshore. Okay, most of it's in the Atlantic. You can see part of the coast of South Carolina right there, just around Charleston, especially get towards some of the docks and the capes. Okay, and that's where you can see 6 inches. But most of the coastline in that dark purple, going just inland down to Savannah, that's where you can see about 4 to 6 inches of rain. So the NAM model is keeping the heaviest rainfall right on the coast. But still, look at all this area in that like whitish pinkish or purple. Okay, that's all 2+ inches of rain. So it's very widespread. And don't forget about the wind threat. We're going to talk about that too. Alright. So you can see here we have some flash flood watches and some flood watches for Georgia and South Carolina. Surprised there's no alerts for Alabama. That's really surprising. Alright, so let's look at the Georgia here. So today, rain chances stay low, but as we head through tonight, advancing from southwest to northeast, you can see we got 80+% chance here. We got 60 here, we got 40 here, and then 15 there. So the chances drop off as you head northeast. And then by Sunday, the whole state of Georgia is in dark green, meaning 80 to 100% chance of rain. And through South Carolina, here's our flash flood watch there too. And here's the radar. And you can see, I'm surprised if not already, I think they are. I have to check. If right there, I don't know if that's Pensacola or right on the western Florida panhandle, right there. I think they might go under a flood warning because they've been under that yellow-orange radar shading for a while now. And let's see if they are. And yes, they are. Okay, actually they're not. But just east of there, Apalachicola. Let me just take my face out here. And you can see that Apalachicola just north of there, between Panama City and Tallahassee, down through Apalachicola, we do have a flood warning for a river here. Alright, so flood stage is 17 feet. And at 3 hours ago, okay, so over 3 hours ago, the stage was 17.5. So I'm not surprised if it's approaching 18 by this point. And we will analyze some rivers as well. And the river is forecast to rise to near 20 feet by Tuesday morning. And if it reaches there, the boat ramp at, I'm not even going to try that, Estefangula in Liberty County will flood. So that's if it gets to 20 feet. And it's going to continue to rise. So that's why we're under a flood warning. Some other areas that are under flood warnings is right here. This is for, let's see, for the Big Black River at west. So it's from Monday morning through Monday evening. And you see at 9:45, the river was at 11.1 feet, okay? Flood stage is 15, so we're far away from there, okay? But the river is expected to rise near 15 feet. Not quite as worried about this one. This is near I-55. Not quite as worried about this one because it'll rise to near flood stage. It won't exceed flood stage like the other one I showed you, but that could happen if we get a heavy rain band. But let's look at some flood warnings that are embedded with the heavy rain currently. So like right here, okay, this is for the Checkasaway near Lakesville, that county. All right, so this is a flood warning from Monday evening till further notice. At 10 a.m. this morning, the river was 18.3 feet. Flood stage is 20. So minor flooding is forecast, and I mean I wouldn't be surprised if we're past 19 feet at this point. So the rivers are getting there, and this is in Alabama, by the way. And the river is expected to rise to 21.5 feet by Wednesday evening. And now remember, if you remember Dorian and Hurricane Florence in the Carolinas, even after a heavy rain event, the rivers usually rise after the rain is over. So Tuesday, Wednesday through Georgia and Alabama, the rivers will be at their peaks, and late Wednesday in South Carolina because they're more to the east. So, all right, so at 22 feet, okay, the flooding of lowlands continues, and roads in low-lying areas become cut off by high water. Because remember, the reason that rivers do rise at their peak after the storm is over is because the rain has to absorb and it gets soaked in, and especially if the river is like in a low-lying area, it flows through a low-lying area, the water will run off into the river, and all that, it's like the river just absorbs all that water that's getting run off into it. So that's the explanation why the rivers can be at their highest after a storm. Alright, so looking at the European model here on windy.com, I added the pressure isoline, the isobars option. And if you're wondering how to do that, just click on more layers, because I've been wondering how to do this too. And scroll all the way down, you'll see where it says display ISO lines. Just click on where it says pressure, geopotential height, temperature, freezing altitude. The one checked off is the one I'm using, which is pressure. So like those pressure isobars. Alright. So looking at this here, and let's put my draw tool over here. And here, these are the wind gusts according to the European model currently. Okay, about 20 minutes ago. And you can see, this almost looks like a hurricane. I mean, or like a tropical entity. Wind gusts near the center, very calm, near 20 miles an hour. But you get to the northwest of the storm, you got, let's see, you got near 50 mile an hour wind gusts on the west and east sides of the storm. Okay, and watch how the storm really comes together. Okay, so heading through overnight tonight, and we actually have like a developing, like a gale, so to speak, and we have a low pressure system. There it is, right there. Okay, that is developing, and we got, you know, winds of 35 plus knots on the northeastern side of it. That's what that magenta is. It's kind of like 35 plus knots, which is tropical storm force wind gusts. And you're like, okay, it's a storm. Okay, it's not even a hurricane, and sometimes hurricanes do some damage, but if this isn't a hurricane, then it can't do that much damage. Not necessarily true. And you can even see for Florida, look at this. You got some yellows highlighting along the coastline through 9 o'clock tonight. So eastern Florida, get ready because winds will be gusting past 25 miles an hour out of the east, and that's certainly bad news. Well, how can the storm do all of this? And actually, all the credit cannot go to this low pressure system. It is secretly working together, or maybe not that secretly, with a teammate up to the north. That's the high pressure. And if you know decently something about weather, you might know what's going to happen here. We got this low pressure system sitting in the Gulf. We got high pressure right here, right here. Normally they'd be just like one classic high pressure. So don't imagine them as two separate ones. Imagine them as like one big one right here. That's basically what it is. One big high pressure, one big low pressure. High pressure is fueling that chilly, raw northeast wind, and luckily that is helping to keep the severe limit down because the temperatures are cooler, more damp. We're not like heat, like hot and humid, but also that low is pumping winds out of the east as well. So they're both working together to push those winds out of the east and all onto the coastline, and that happens to be Georgia and the Carolinas. It's going to be in that bullseye. All right, so let's keep it on a zoomed out fashion here. And let's go to when most people are waking up, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Look at this. The low is still in the northern Gulf. Okay, if you compare that to pressure strength, right now, the lower that number is, the stronger the storm, by the way. Okay, and at 9 p.m., it's at 2997. By the time you wake up tomorrow at 7 o'clock, it'll be at 2981 according to the European model. And you can see it's spinning a lot more. The wind barbs, or the wind ISO lines, so you can see the wind animation spinning a lot faster, and it's looking a lot more, rotating. It's like rotating a lot more. So the storm is definitely developing, and we're getting some stronger winds on the northeast side of it. But with 50 miles an hour, now we're seeing wind gusts past 55 miles per hour. So the storm's really getting its act together. Not only that, but look at this. Now, you see the high pressure here, right? Now, I want to point this out. This is where the center of the high is. They now come together to form a high. The winds, you're like, well, if the high is here, why aren't the winds blowing out of the east in that particular spot in the North Atlantic? That's because you got to look at around the high, too. Around the high, the closest line you see, okay? This is the closest line you see around the high pressure system. Am I right or am I right? Right? Now, because you see that line that I highlighted around the high pressure, once you get outside of that line, the winds are going to start going out of the east. They don't go to the winds don't necessarily come from the east as soon as you get south of the high pressure. It's that pressure iso line that's around it. So when you got a low pressure here and a high pressure here, that wind is going through this narrow tunnel that I'm highlighting over and over again. That's where that wind is all going to pass through, the Georgia and Carolina coastline. That's where the moisture is all going to be pumped in. That's where all the, coastal erosion will be. Okay, and the storm's a lot stronger because you can see this is a, let me explain it this way. This is a high pressure iso line. Okay, and we got the low pressure iso line. It's basically like this. So all the wind is getting funneled in, or will be funneled in this direction there. All right, so let's go through time. Let's go to around lunchtime Sunday, and the storm is finally getting on shore. And the European model has it coming on shore a lot late or sooner than the NAM models do. But again, let's zoom out. And again, here's your high pressure, right? Around it, the winds will be coming from the east right there. That's when the winds start turning from the east direction. And there's your low pressure continuing to intensify. And we got just a constant flow. It just won't stop. Then now, we're starting to see developing winds right here. That magenta color. That's from that high pressure too. They're starting to work together. And look at the wave heights. Okay. The wave heights, now these are offshore. Okay. These wave heights are not quite being translated to the coast yet. Once the storm gets closer, that will happen. But look at the waves associated with the low pressure itself. Okay, we're talking about 10-foot, 11-foot waves coming onto the coast, and kind of like, you can call this like a storm surge, basically, that the winds will start coming out of the southeast when that storm makes landfall, right in Apalachicola. That water is really going to be trickling in. So I won't stall too much on that. Atlanta's under a flood watch, meaning a longer duration of flooding, and a high wind watch, and Charleston, South Carolina, or Columbia, is under a flash flood watch. Now let's take a look at some river gauges. Alright, so here we have our river gauges, and we're going to take a couple from each state. I want to try to take some from Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. Let's start with South Carolina because what really disturbs me is the fact that a lot of Georgia and South Carolina, like central eastern Georgia and south central South Carolina, how I'm seeing so many gauges that are near flood stage or at minor flood stage, and the rain hasn't even gotten there yet. I mean, they have been a little bit wet recently, but like not like they have. They're actually kind of in a deficit of rain, and the rainfall or the river gauges are still running pretty high. So let's go to the OGT River near Midville, Georgia. Let's take a look at that river gauge. Okay, and there we go. Let's pull up that river gauge. And a spot where that river gauge is located is under both a flood warning and a flash flood watch. Okay, so flooding is going to be a really big factor here. And we are in minor flood stage, but we were a lot higher. Okay, actually, I mean, what's today? Today's Saturday, right? Late Wednesday night, we topped out at 7.35. That has trailed down since. Okay, and it might even get down to action, so near flood stage, but it will come back up heading through Wednesday. It'll head up to about 7 feet again. And at 7 feet, let's see what this river does at 7 feet. So at 6 feet, the access road to the river bluff in Midville floods. So I guess that basically means that it's going to be really hard, if not impossible, to get the river bluff. Now, lower portion of Johnson Road near Herndon is also flooded. If it ever gets to 10 feet, which it won't, or it's possible, but it's not expected to, then water will reach the lower portion of Rogers Landing Road. Okay, so there's that river gauge, just south of Madison Street there. All right, let's head to another river gauge. Let's go to South Carolina. Actually, let's go near the Francis Marion National Forest here. So the Santee River near Jamestown, South Carolina. It's a known tourist attraction. Nice place where people go. Again, flood warning and flash flood watches are in effect. And the rivers have just been rising since Monday. Okay, we've been continuing to rise and rise, and we're up to 13 feet now. Looks like we'll stay that way through Monday, then dropping through late Tuesday, late Wednesday, and through Thursday. And we'll probably peak out at 13 feet. What happens at 13 feet? Well, at 12 feet, several dirt logging roads are impassable, and water will cover numerous logging roads and it will inundate timber land adjacent to the river. Most access points to Wheatie State Forest are cut off. So if you're like one of those hikers that goes into the remote or parts of the forest, probably going to be blocked due to that water. Okay, and you can see, but I'm not sure, I'm sure there's the bridge, but you can see US 1741. If, God forbid, we got like a huge hurricane, I mean, water could rise above that bridge and flood 41 and 17 completely. So, luckily, hopefully the bridge is actually high up. I've never seen the bridge myself. All right, let's look at one more gauge in this specific area. Let's go through the North Fork Edisto River near Orangeburg, South Carolina. And they have been trailing down. And I've recently found out that no really river gauges in Mississippi, Alabama are actually flooding as of now. But late Wednesday, okay, we were at 8.15, which is minor. Okay, now here's what really, kind of disturbs me. We've been down, we're at action stage right now. We could even drop to no flooding whatsoever through late Sunday, but guess what? Once that rainfall settles in, boom, we skyrocket back at the minor flood stage through Monday and Tuesday. Actually, through Tuesday, excuse me. So, at 8 feet, some minor flooding along the boardwalk near Edisto Gardens. Downstream from the Highway 301 bridge, some roads off of Chiquita Street near the river will begin to flood. So that's some bad news. And finally, to wrap it up here, here's the rainfall deficit in the past 30 days. So you can see going from, and I want to zoom out here, going from parts of southeastern Alabama through central Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, all the way up to the mid-Atlantic through the northeast. And it says, zoom out again here. And you can see it from Maine all the way down through Alabama, near the I-90, near and just west of the I-95 corridor. Okay, and that area I just highlighted, that's where we've been at least, an inch, 2 inches, and even some cases 5 inches above average in this for the month of December so far, so the past 21 days. Now, some localized areas in the southeast, like some people in Florida here, near the Panhandle and the Big Bend, could use the rain. Matter of fact, look at New Orleans. Okay, they're a couple inches of rain below average for the month. Okay, and so assuming that they get, there are 3 inches below average of rain. Assuming that they get 3 inches of rainfall every month, that means you've gotten no rainfall so far. Let's see, New Orleans has, oh, they have gotten some rainfall, actually. Okay, good, I was about to say. So they have gotten some rainfall. Okay, where did you go? Like, you all of a sudden disappeared on me. Am I blind? Alright, hold on. So, departure from normal, here we go. I have to find it again. And here is observed. So, New Orleans has seen about an inch or two of rain. If you go just northwest of downtown, that's where we've seen about 2 to 3 inches. Go to Baton Rouge, and you guys have seen like 4 or 6 inches. You're like, oh, we don't need it. But if you go to New Orleans and just, east and southeast of town, you really haven't seen like a half inch, inch and a half. So we could certainly use the rain in some spots, and we could, hate the rain in others. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully I'll be back to posting. Looking like a, let's get a little sneak peek at Christmas here. It's looking dry and warm for many. I know where I am, Christmas is going to be 50 degrees. I mean, it makes me happy that Christmas will be, I was hoping for like, a lot of snow because it's like Christmas. But, we still got, I heard, like, look at this. Good news here. So look at January, sneak peek at January, through Delaware, Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, all the way down through Texas. It's going to be above average precipitation, and Delaware, Jersey, Pennsylvania, through New England, back to Montana, it's going to be cold. So where I am, it's going to be below average temperatures and above average precipitation for January, and that could mean snow. And I'm sure that's the scenario for a lot of you in the Northeast. So January, as soon as we flip the calendar, we're going to start looking out for a lot more snowstorms. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Alaska will be downright cold. I mean, they're talking about 90% chance of cold temperatures. But 27th through the 31st, so post-Christmas, it is just going to be downright warm, but it will be wet at least. So any drought areas will definitely get some relief. You see 8 to 14 day, our chances for warm temperatures go down, but we will have some warm or some wet times as well. So that was your sneak peek at Christmas and beyond. So thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned for next video. Thank you guys for watching. I am the Weather Dude, signing off. Till next time.